Starting an AI business sounds incredibly exciting, doesn't it? You hear about companies raising millions, building the next big chatbot, or creating AI tools that supposedly print money while you sleep. But here's what nobody talks about in those flashy LinkedIn posts: the actual numbers, the real costs, the uncomfortable truth about what it takes to go from "I have an idea" to "I have a business." I'm going to walk you through exactly what it costs to start an AI business in 2026, and I promise you, some of these numbers are going to surprise you. More importantly, I'm going to show you why the price tag isn't always what you think it is, and how you can actually get started with way less than the horror stories suggest. Let's start with the elephant in the room: compute costs. Everyone's terrified of this one, and honestly, for good reason. If you listen to the tech news, you'd think you need $100 million just to turn on a GPU. The reality is more nuanced. If you're building a foundation model from scratch, training something comparable to GPT-4 or Claude, you're looking at tens of millions of dollars in compute alone. That's not an exaggeration. We're talking about training runs that cost anywhere from $20 to $100 million, depending on the model size and training duration. But here's the thing: you're probably not doing that. Unless you're backed by serious venture capital, or you're a research lab, you're not training foundation models. What you're actually doing is one of three things: fine-tuning existing models, using APIs to build applications on top of models that already exist, or maybe doing some lightweight training for specialized tasks. And this is where the costs become manageable, sometimes shockingly so. If you're building an AI application using APIs from OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, or any of the major providers, your costs scale with usage. During development, you might spend $50 to $500 a month just testing and iterating. That's not nothing, but it's not mortgage your house territory either. Once you launch, your API costs scale with your users, which means if you're charging for your product, these costs should theoretically be covered by revenue. The trick is pricing correctly, which most founders get wrong initially. Fine-tuning is more expensive, but still accessible. If you're taking an existing model and training it on your specific data to make it better at your particular use case, you're looking at anywhere from a few hundred to a few $1,000s per training run, depending on the model size and the amount of data. Most businesses do this iteratively, so budget a few $1,000s for the experimentation phase. Now, if you need to run your own models, maybe for privacy reasons, or because you need complete control, you're looking at infrastructure costs. Renting GPU instances from AWS, Google Cloud, or Azure can run you anywhere from $1 to over $50 per hour, depending on the GPU type. If you need serious horsepower, an H100 instance can cost $15 to $30 per hour. Do the math on running that full-time, and you're looking at $10,000 to $20,000 a month. But again, most early-stage AI businesses don't need this. You're probably fine with smaller GPUs, or even CPU-based inference for many applications, especially if you're using efficient models. Here's something nobody tells you: your biggest cost in the beginning probably won't be compute. It'll be data. Good data is expensive, and bad data will kill your business faster than anything else. If you're building something that requires labeled data, you have a few options, none of them free. You can label it yourself, which costs you time, or you can hire people to do it. Services like Scale AI, Labelbox, or Amazon Mechanical Turk charge anywhere from a few cents to several dollars per label, depending on complexity. If you need 10,000 labeled examples and each one costs $1, that's 10 grand right there. Need 100,000 examples? You see where this is going. Some founders try to get around this by using synthetic data generated by other AI models, which can work but has its own costs and limitations. Others scrape public data, which is cheaper but comes with legal and ethical considerations that are getting more complex by the day. The smart move is usually a hybrid approach. Start with a smaller, high-quality dataset that you invest in properly. Prove your concept works, then scale your data collection as you grow. Then there's the human capital, and this is where things get really expensive really fast. AI engineers are not cheap. A competent machine learning engineer in the US can command a salary of $150,000 to $300,000 or more, plus equity. If you're in a major tech hub, add 20 to 50% to those numbers. You might think you can just hire one engineer and be fine, but realistically, you need multiple skill sets. Someone who understands ML, someone who can build the product and infrastructure, someone who can handle data engineering. That's 3 people minimum, and you're easily looking at $500,000 a year in salaries alone. Now, before you close this video in despair, here's the good news. You don't necessarily need to hire full-time from day one. A lot of successful AI startups start with founders who can code, maybe bring on a contracting ML engineer for specific projects, and gradually build the team as they prove product market fit. Contract ML engineers might charge $100 to $300 per hour, which sounds like a lot until you realize that hiring them for 20 hours a week is still way cheaper than a full-time salary, plus benefits plus equity. There's also the option of offshoring, which is controversial but practical. You can find talented ML engineers in Eastern Europe, India, or Latin America for a third to half the cost of US-based engineers. The trade-off is usually communication overhead and potentially time zone challenges, but for early-stage startups watching every dollar, it's worth considering. Beyond people and compute, you've got all the standard business costs that people forget about. Legal fees to set up your company and protect your IP. Expect $2,000 to $10,000 depending on complexity. If you're doing anything with user data, you need proper legal review of your privacy policies and terms of service. Accounting and bookkeeping. A few $100s a month minimum. Insurance. You need general liability, and if you're handling sensitive data, you probably want cyber insurance too. That's several $1,000s a year. Then there's software and tools. Sure, you can use free tiers of a lot of services when you're tiny, but you'll quickly need paid plans for your cloud hosting, your development tools, your monitoring and analytics, your customer support software, your CRM. Add it all up, and you're easily spending $500 to $2,000 a month on SaaS tools alone. Marketing is another black hole that founders underestimate. You can bootstrap this with content marketing and SEO, which is mostly time rather than money. But if you want to move faster, paid acquisition is expensive in the AI space. Google Ads, LinkedIn ads, sponsored content, all of it costs real money, and your cost per acquisition in B2B AI can easily be hundreds or thousands of dollars per customer. Budget at least a few $1,000s a month if you're serious about paid growth. Here's the reality check. If you want to start an AI business, the quote-unquote proper way, with a small team, decent infrastructure, good data, and some runway to figure things out, you're looking at needing $250,000 to $500,000 minimum to get through your first year. That's not a crazy number for a tech startup, but it's not pocket change either. But, and this is important, that's not the only way to do it. Some of the most successful AI businesses started with way less because the founders were scrappy and strategic. They used API-based approaches instead of building infrastructure. They started with free or cheap data sources and proved the concept before investing in expensive datasets. They did consulting or services to fund the product development. They built in public and got early customers before raising money. I know founders who started AI businesses with less than $20,000 and got to profitability. They weren't building the next ChatGPT. They were solving specific problems for specific customers using AI as a tool, not as the entire product. They charged from day one, even for a rough MVP, which meant their customers funded their development. The actual answer to how much it costs to start an AI business is, it depends on what you're building and how you're building it. Are you creating a developer tool that uses APIs and can be built by 1 or 2 technical founders? You might get started with $10,000 to $30,000. Are you building an enterprise AI solution that requires custom models and a sales team? You're looking at $500,000 minimum. Are you trying to build foundational AI technology? Don't even think about it without 8 figures. The smarter question isn't how much does it cost, but how little can you spend to validate your idea and get to revenue. That's the entrepreneur's mindset. Start with the cheapest possible version of your idea that can still deliver value. For most AI businesses, that means using existing APIs, starting with a narrow use case, getting a few paying customers to validate the concept, then using that revenue and validation to raise money or reinvest in growth. Think of it in stages. Stage 1 is validation. Spend a few $1,000s. Build an MVP using APIs or fine-tuned models. Get it in front of potential customers. See if anyone will pay for it. If they won't, you just saved yourself hundreds of thousands of dollars. If they will, now you know you have something. Stage 2 is early traction. Spend $20,000 to $50,000 improving the product, getting your first 10 to 20 customers, proving you can deliver value consistently. Stage 3 is scale. Now you raise money or reinvest revenue to build the team, improve the infrastructure, and grow for real. One massive cost that people don't talk about enough is opportunity cost. If you're building an AI business, you're probably not taking a salary for a while. If you could be making $150,000 a year as an ML engineer somewhere, and you're spending a year building your business making nothing, that's $150,000 in opportunity cost. That's real money you're betting on yourself. Some people include this in their mental calculation of what it costs to start a business, others don't, but either way, it's something to consider. There's also the cost of failure, which sounds depressing but is practical. Most startups fail. If you spend a year and $50,000 and it doesn't work out, that's money you're not getting back. This isn't meant to discourage you, but it should influence how you think about risk. Can you afford to lose the money you're putting in? Do you have a backup plan? These aren't fun questions, but they're necessary ones. Here's something encouraging though. The costs of starting an AI business are actually going down over time, not up. APIs are getting cheaper and more powerful. Open source models are getting better, which means you can do more without paying for proprietary APIs. Tools for building AI applications are proliferating, making development faster and easier. The talent pool is growing, which puts some downward pressure on salaries, at least for more junior positions. 5 years ago, building what you can build today would have cost 10 times as much. The barriers to entry are lowering, which is good and bad. Good because it means more people can start AI businesses and innovate. Bad because it means more competition and more noise in the market. Your differentiation can't just be that you're using AI anymore, because everyone is. You need a real moat, proprietary data, unique domain expertise, exceptional execution, strong distribution, something that makes you defensible. If I had to give practical advice to someone wanting to start an AI business today with limited funds, here's what I'd say. Start with the problem, not the technology. Find a specific painful problem that businesses or consumers have that AI can solve better than existing solutions. Build the absolute minimum viable version using the cheapest tools available, which usually means API-based approaches. Talk to customers constantly and get them to pay as early as possible, even if it's a tiny amount. Use that early revenue to fund iteration. Only raise money or invest heavily in infrastructure once you've proven people want what you're building. Stay as lean as humanly possible until you have clear product-market fit. Don't try to build a platform when you can build a feature. Don't try to boil the ocean when you can solve one specific problem really well. Don't hire a team when you can do it yourself or with a co-founder. Don't spend money on things that feel like business, like fancy offices or expensive branding, until you have an actual business that's making money. The AI gold rush is real, and there's genuine opportunity here, but the people who succeed won't be the ones with the most money or the fanciest technology. They'll be the ones who solve real problems for real customers in a way that's economically sustainable. That might mean building something less sexy than a foundation model, but it also means building something that actually works as a business. So how much does it really cost to start an AI business? Anywhere from a few $1,000s to tens of millions, depending on what you're building. But the more important question is, how much value can you create with the resources you have? Start there, and the rest will follow.